The courtroom was quiet. So quiet that even the soft hum of the ceiling fan was deafening. Murray froze, her hands shaking as the judge raised a thin white envelope. In it was the reality that nobody wished to confront. The DNA report that would break years of deceit and inform everyone who the mysterious son really belonged to. As the judge started to read, the air disappeared. Not a sound, not a breath. Nobody, not even Cody, could move. The trial had spilled into its third week, and by now tension wasn't only in the air, it was the air. Cameras covered the back wall, their small red lights flashing like surveillance eyes, capturing every twitch, every gasp, every whisper. Sitting at the plaintiff's table was Murray. She gazed down at the shiny floor, her cool, composed attitude, lost some time ago. What rested there instead was a woman with years of silence and nothing more to lose. In the other direction, Cody fidgeted with his tie for the 100th time, his jaw clenched. Robin leaned in close, whispering wildly, but he wouldn't turn to look at her. Each time their eyes nearly met, she winced. She knew at some level, Murray wasn't bluffing this time. Everyone assumed this case was about property and cash, but Murray never was pursuing real estate. She was pursuing truth. A truth hidden beneath DNA, lies, and decades of denial. The judge cleared his throat. "Mrs. Brown," he said, locking eyes with Murray's steady gaze, "your lawyer has asserted something that could completely shift the course of this case. Are you sure you wish to proceed?" Murray didn't blink. "Yes, Your Honor, I've waited long enough." A low murmur rippled through the courtroom. Even Christine and Janelle, seated quietly in the gallery, exchanged shocked glances. They'd heard rumors before, but never like this. And then, the doors opened. A young man entered, barely in his 20s. His hands fidgeted nervously, but his face told another story. The sharp cheekbones, the amber brown hair, it was unmistakable. Christine gasped softly. The resemblance was haunting. The judge frowned. "Identify yourself." "My name is Jacob," he said, his voice catching slightly. "I believe Cody Brown is my father." The room exploded. Gasps, whispers, havoc. Robin gripped Cody's arm. Cody stood stunned, his mouth open, but nothing emerged. For a man who always dictated the narrative, this was the first moment he had no words. There is a breaking point for every secret, and Murray had just tugged on the first thread. Eleanor, Murray's attorney, rose calmly and held up a sealed manila envelope. "Your Honor," she began, "we've submitted verified DNA results comparing Mr. Brown and Jacob, as well as Mrs. Robin Brown." Robin's eyes went wide. "What?" Eleanor's tone was sharp, cool, and deliberate. "You heard me." Cody slammed his palm on the table. "This is ridiculous. This has nothing to do with property." "Really," Eleanor replied, "it has a lot to do with it. Because the trust you used to conceal assets names Jacob as a dependent beneficiary. And that's where this all starts. Sometimes the truth doesn't tiptoe in. It blows in through the door and never departs." The judge nodded deliberately. "Continue." Eleanor laid down a photograph on the evidence table. Jacob at boyhood age next to a woman whose name no one knew. "Jacob's mother died 5 years ago," she said softly. Prior to her death, she informed him of the truth that Cody Brown was his natural father. Robin rigidified in her chair. "That's ridiculous. Anyone can say that." Murray spoke up at last, her tone soft but biting. "Then let's hear what the DNA has to say." Silence filled the room. Even the judge seemed uncomfortable, looking in the direction of the bailiff as if to say, "Are we really doing this?" Eleanor relieved the tension. "Your Honor, I need also to present a secondary finding. When we ran this DNA test, we cross-checked it with one that had been run years before, under Robin Brown's orders. Those records, filed in Nevada, had been tampered with." The room erupted again. Robin leapt to her feet. "You can't substantiate that." "Oh, we already have," Eleanor said calmly. "The lab technician, Miss Dana Heller, your old friend, signed an affidavit confessing she falsified test results on your order." Robin's face became white. Deceit constructed on paper disintegrates quickly, one autograph at a time. "Enough," the judge commanded. "Go on, Miss Hart." Eleanor opened the last page. "This is the verified DNA report. It indicates a 99.97% chance of biological relationship between Jacob Brown and Cody Brown. Cody let his head fall into his hands. Robin whispered, "No, that can't be true." But Eleanor wasn't finished. "There's more," she said softly. Murray's eyes filled with tears. "Tell them." Eleanor took a deep breath. "We also matched Jacob's DNA against Murray Brown's. The results indicate a partial maternal match." The room froze. Even the cameras seemed to stop humming. Eleanor continued, her voice trembling just slightly. "Jacob is not only Cody Brown's son, he's genetically linked to Murray Brown through a 2003 surrogacy mix-up and embryo mislabeling." The courtroom no longer felt like a hall of justice. It felt like an explosion of every buried secret, finally seeing daylight. Robin collapsed into her chair. "You're lying. This is a setup." Murray rose slowly. "No, Robin. You're the one who lied. For 20 years you let me think that my embryo was lost. You told me the clinic made a mistake. But now we know. You stole it." The judge blinked, shocked. "You're saying she bore your child?" "Yes," Murray said defiantly, voice cracking, and passed him off as her own. Christine gasped. Janelle sobbed softly in the back. Jacob looked at Murray, his voice trembling. "You mean I'm your son?" Murray nodded, the tears finally coming. "Yes, you always were." And there the Brown family saga fell apart. Because blood doesn't lie. The judge sat back, stunned. "This changes everything." Cody whispered something no microphone could pick up. His face was ashen, empty. Robin continued to mutter, "They can't do this to me." Eleanor quietly shut the folder. "Your Honor, we ask that all asset transfers in the Brown family trust be immediately stayed pending further examination. Fraud, identity theft and perjury are now a part of this record." The judge nodded slowly. "Granted." Reporters outside were already flashing headlines. Inside, Murray spoke quietly to Jacob. "Her son. I'm so sorry." Cody finally raised his head, his formerly proud eyes now blank. "You set me up." "No, Cody," Murray whispered. "You did this to yourself the second you opted for lies instead of love. The truth doesn't kill families. Secrets do." Outside, the sun fell below the red hills of Flagstaff. Cameras flashed. Reporters yelled. Robin covered her face. Cody departed in silence. Murray stood proudly on the courthouse steps, Jacob's hand in hers. For the first time in decades, she didn't feel shattered. She felt liberated. But within, Eleanor was already petitioning new motions to reopen every Brown family case ever handled. Because once the DNA spoke, there was no unhearing it. And this was only the beginning. The tone of the narrator drops to a whisper. What comes next won't just destroy reputations, it'll rewrite everything they ever believed about family. By dawn the next morning, the courthouse stairs were already thronged with reporters, microphones colliding, and breath misting in the chilly Flagstaff air. By morning the news was national. Murray Brown uncovers secret son. DNA scandal embarrasses the sister wives. The headlines were ubiquitous. Murray slipped in unobtrusively, her coat drawn close against the cold air. Jacob beside her. He seemed pale, lost. His life had been turned upside down overnight. "Do we have to go in there again?" he asked quietly. She tightened his hand. "Yes, sweetheart. Because if we quit now, they win again." Inside, the courtroom hummed like an overripe hive. Reporters hushed. Cameras snapped. Robin was as tense as stone. Her hair pulled back too high. Her attorney speaking panicked words of caution. Cody appeared empty, like a man seeing his kingdom fall. For years he'd stood at the center of the Brown dynasty. Today he stood at its downfall. The judge walked in, and quiet fell over the courtroom. "We will continue with testimony," he said calmly. "Considering yesterday's findings, the court will concentrate on supposed fraud and impersonation." Eleanor stood up, firm as always. "Your Honor, the plaintiff presents its first witness, Nurse Clara Jennings of Desert Valley Fertility Clinic." The bailiff opened the door, and a woman in worn scrubs entered. Her hands shook as she was sworn in, mid-50s, weary eyes, the face of one shouldering old guilt. "Mrs. Jennings." Eleanor started softly. "Do you remember a patient named Murray Brown?" Clara nodded. "Yes, she presented to us in 2003, for an embryo transfer." "And do you remember Mrs. Robin Brown?" Clara hesitated. "Yes, but not as a patient." She was listed as a support visitor. Robin's eyes darkened. Eleanor handed her a clipboard. Mrs. Jennings, please confirm this handwriting. Clara squinted, studying it. That's Robin's signature. But the file says she authorized an emergency replacement transfer. That was never supposed to happen. The judge leaned forward. Explain, embryos were mislabeled. On purpose, Clara. Somebody swapped the patient identifiers. It seemed legitimate then, but afterward I discovered Mrs. Brown's embryo had been implanted in the wrong woman. The courtroom fell silent. It was like the truth itself had removed all the oxygen from the room. Eleanor moved closer. And who was that woman? Mrs. Jennings. Clara's gaze flickered to Robin. It was her. Robin sprang to her feet. That's a lie. She's doing this to cover herself. Cody whirled around to Robin, his face panic-stricken. Robin, tell me you didn't. I didn't take her embryo. Robin wailed. It was an accident. The clinic made a mistake. But Clara's head just shook. No ma'am, it wasn't an error. The papers were faked after the procedure was done. Someone wanted it that way. Murray covered her mouth, silent tears falling. You let me grieve that baby for 2 decades, she whispered. When pain and truth converge, silence can be more oppressive than any scream. The judge slammed his gavel. Order, order in the court. Reporters scribbled frenziedly. Cody's attorney leaned in close, whispering something that made him wince. Robin's hands shook uncontrollably. Eleanor stepped closer to the stand. Mrs. Jennings, who called to approve the switch. Someone called me, Clara whispered. A man who said he was the patient's husband. He said it was a family decision, and identified himself as Cody Brown. The whole courtroom came to a standstill. Murray looked at Cody. You called the clinic. He shook his head but didn't respond. His throat constricted. You don't understand. It wasn't meant to be permanent. They told me there was a mistake. There was a mistake, snapped Murray.
You.
Her words rang out across the room like lightning. For once Cody did not struggle back. The judge massaged his forehead. Mr. Brown, if you have any part in doctoring medical records, you will have counsel answer formally. Eleanor pushed forward. Your Honor, the Brown family trust utilized forged birth certificates to claim Jacob as Robin's dependent. That alteration funneled approximately $480,000 from Murray Brown's inheritance account. Cody's color faded. That's not true. Eleanor opened a fresh folder. We have the bank statements, Your Honor. Payments transferred to Flagstaff Heritage Holdings, an LLC set up in Robin's maiden name. Same month Jacob was born. Every paper wasn't just proof. It was another nail in the coffin of their deceptions. The judge took a deep breath. Mrs. Brown, do you have anything to say? Murray stood, firm but trembling. I used to believe the truth would kill me, she said softly. But concealing it already did. You stole my child, my money and my voice. Today I'm reclaiming them. Cody rushed to his feet, his fists shaking. You don't understand. Robin was trying to save us. Eleanor faced him. By stealing another woman's child. By manipulating DNA and referring to it as destiny. Robin collapsed into sobs, her hands covering her face. The judge declared a recess. Cameras were lowered. Reporters scrambled to get out and write their tales. Murray strode out into the marble corridor, her heels ringing like soft thunder. Jacob accompanied her, lost for words. I don't know what to say, he whispered. She looked at him, tears shining. You don't have to. Just remember, you were never a mistake. You were the only thing that was real. Strength does not always sound like fury. Sometimes it sounds like quiet truth finally being stated out loud. When court convened once more, the judge's voice was stern. An investigation of medical fraud and financial abuse is hereby initiated. All applicable records are subpoenaed. Obstruction will earn instant contempt. Cody looked shattered. Robin hid behind a tissue. Christine and Janelle exchanged glances. A mix of heartbreak and bitter vindication. Eleanor leaned close to Murray. We're close, she whispered. We're close, she whispered. Once those records arrive, they'll have nowhere left to hide. Murray nodded. I'm ready. As she walked away from there that day, reporters cried her name, demanding to know whether or not she felt vindicated. She didn't respond, because this wasn't victory. Not yet. Justice doesn't conclude when you uncover evidence. It concludes when the guilty finally realize the burden of what they've done. And somewhere behind those courthouse doors, Robin breathed through tears. If those files leak out, we're done for. Her words trailed off into the hush as doors closed. But the war was far from finished. Eleanor looked toward the door. She's here. The doors opened once more. A young woman entered, mid-20s, anxious but unflinching. Light brown hair, eyes astonishingly like Cody's. That half smile, Murray saw it at once. My name is Maya Brown, she said quietly, and I believe Cody Brown is my father. Gasps filled the courtroom. Even the reporters stopped mid-type. Cody froze, dazed. No, no, it must be some sort of trick. But Maya did not look away. You don't recognize me, do you? You wouldn't. I was informed you were killed. Murray's breath was stopped. Eleanor moved forward. Miss Brown, can you explain to the court how you found this link? Maya nodded, holding a piece of paper. I did an ancestry DNA test a year ago. My mom had passed away, and I wanted to know where I came from. The results showed that I matched with two individuals, Jacob Brown and Murray Brown. I figured it was a bug. Then I read the news this week, and when I looked at Jacob's picture, I knew. Our eyes are the same. Cody leaned back in his chair, face empty, the crush of his own deceptions bearing down on him. Not all storms come bellowing in with thunder. They come in bearing your own face. Christine got up from the gallery, shaking with rage. You're telling me my embryo, the one that we believed failed. Maya nodded. Did not fail. I was that embryo. Christine put her hand over her mouth, sobbing. Oh my God. Oh my God. The judge leaned forward. Are you affirming that this young woman is the biological offspring of Cody Brown and Christine Brown? Eleanor nodded. Yes, Your Honor. DNA verifies a 99.99% match. Robin's eyes widened. You mean she's Christine's? Murray faced her. Guess you weren't the only one keeping secrets. Cody hid his face in his hands. The room whirled around him. This isn't happening, he said. None of this is happening. Eleanor smoothed her papers. And yet, she whispered, it is. Your Honor, this illustrates a distinct trend. Manipulation, deception, and exploitation, all connected to fertility treatments and financial impropriety through the Brown Family Trust. The judge massaged his temples and sighed. This is more than a civil issue, he said. We are on the brink of criminal grounds. Maya looked at Cody, tears brimming. I didn't come here for money, she whispered. I came because I have a right to know why I was erased. Her voice shook, holding a soft strength that commanded the courtroom. When a child demands truth, there's no lie large enough to fill the silence that follows. Cody attempted to answer, but his voice cracked. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear I didn't know. Christine's laughter was bitter. That's all you ever say, Cody. You didn't know. When Mary lost her embryo. You didn't know. When Robin stole it. You didn't know. When the money disappeared. How many things can you not know before it just becomes who you are? Enough, interrupted the judge sternly. This court will demand a complete examination of all trust and fertility records relating to the Brown family. All parties must submit to DNA confirmation under the supervision of this court. Mary turned to Maya, then Jacob. Her tone gentled. You two are both victims of the same deception. The only disparity is one of you was concealed, one of you was adopted. Maya's voice shook. I just wanted the truth. You deserve it, Mary breathed. For a moment the courtroom didn't seem split along family lines, wives, husbands, or children. It was split along truth, and along those willing to confront it. Robin crumpled crying. It wasn't supposed to go like this. I didn't want this. The judge adjourned, but the silence that followed was louder than any gavel. There was no applause, no voices. The Browns sat there, shattered, exposed, equal in guilt. Outside, the rain had ended. Light poured through the courthouse windows. As Mary, Christine, and Janelle descended the steps side by side, Christine breathed in deeply. You know what's wild, she said. After all this, it's like the truth was living this entire time, just waiting for today to be born. Mary nodded slowly. Perhaps today was that day. Sometimes justice has nothing to do with punishment. It has to do with reclaiming what was taken in silence. With the camera swiveling over the courthouse, the narrator's voice interjects. The DNA results had rewritten their pasts. But what came next would decide their futures. The court wasn't done. New evidence from Nevada was already en route, and this time, it wasn't about embryos. It was about money, names, and an offshore account nobody was ever meant to discover. The sun shone brightly over the courthouse windows in Nevada. Within the Brown family sat intense silence. The walls seemed closer. This day felt conclusive. The day that secrets ceased to be tales and began to become evidence. Mary came first, her composed face hiding years of fatigue. Jacob and Maya sat subdued behind her, struggling to understand how their lives had become the country's most iconic courtroom drama. Christine stepped in, her gaze meeting Mary's. No words were necessary. For the first time in years, the old wives were a united front. Robin stepped in last, her attorney holding a black briefcase and a white-knuckled grip. Cody brought up the rear, no longer the strong patriarch he once seemed, but a man who was about to realize the burden of every choice he'd ever made. The judge cleared his throat. This court has received fresh evidence from the Nevada Attorney General's office, he started. It involves offshore accounts and fraudulent transfers involving the Brown family trust. Miss Hart, continue. Eleanor opened a folder and displayed 3 shiny photographs. These records are from the State Financial Crimes Bureau, she informed. They reveal wire transfers of $1.8 million to an account in the name Aurora Holdings LLC. The owner listed, she hesitated, is Robin Brown. Robin's eyes grew wide. It's a mistake. That's not mine. Eleanor's tone stayed cool. The LLC was registered in 2017. The same week the Brown Trust reported a loss of $1.8 million from the Coyote Pass development. The signature on the incorporation papers matches yours exactly. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Brown, care to explain? Robin stammered. It was supposed to be for taxes. Cody told me. Don't drag me into that, Cody snapped. You opened that account. Robin spun on him, fear in her eyes. You told me to. You said it was for the sake of the family's future. The courtroom fell abruptly silent. All empires founded on deception eventually fall into war, and this one had just crossed onto the battlefield. Eleanor clicked to another photo. The money from Aurora Holdings was moved 3 times, initially to a private bank in Belize, second to a Nevada escrow account, and third to a personal savings account of Cody Brown. Cody's jaw clenched. That cash was for family investments. Mary's voice sliced through the tension like a knife. Family investments, or your new life with Robin. You used that money to buy her house, didn't you? Cody said nothing. Eleanor presented another slide, a mortgage file labeled Exhibit 32. The down payment for the Flagstaff mansion was provided directly by Aurora Holdings. The signature is Robin Brown, power of attorney for the Brown Family Trust. The judge scowled. You used a power of attorney, was it notarized? Eleanor smiled brittly. That's the catch, Your Honor. The notary doesn't exist. Miss Dana Heller's license was revoked 5 years ago when this was signed. Robin turned white. When truth is closing in, even silence can sound like guilt. Christine leaned in close to Janelle and whispered, that's why they wanted to modify the trust. They were laundering through real estate. Janelle's eyes welled up. And we paid the price. The judge folded his fingers. Mrs. Brown, did you and your husband knowingly submit false financial statements? Robin shook. I didn't know. I just signed what he instructed me to. Cody spun around on her, indignant. Stop blaming me. You were the one doing the paperwork. You wanted control. Mary's voice climbed, steady and hard. You both wanted control. You thought you could rewrite the truth, even in ink. But ink will fade. The truth won't. The room hung motionless. Eleanor advanced, serene but cold. Your Honor, the audit reveals 2 last wire transfers in 2019. One to a Cayman Islands account, one to a Utah domestic trust, in the name of RJ Trust Holdings. The beneficiary listed, Aurora Brown. Robin's eyes widened. My daughter? Yes. Eleanor spoke softly. The account was opened in her name with your signature. More than $600,000 have yet to be accounted for. Cody's voice broke.
That money was for her future. The judge scowled. That money was stolen, Mr. Brown. Money can build walls, but it can't bury evidence. Sooner or later, paper trails find their way home. Eleanor faced the bench. Your Honor, the prosecution would like a complete asset freeze on all Brown family accounts and immediate seizure of Aurora Holdings LLC records pending investigation. Granted, the judge replied. The courtroom was filled with gasps. Robin wept. You're destroying us. Mary remained strong. No, Robin, you destroyed yourself. The day you lied about my child. That's the day this started. Cody's voice climbed in desperation. You wanted to kill me. You set this up. Mary looked into his eyes, cold and calm. No, Cody. You killed yourself the day you chose greed over family. He pounded his fists on the table, his voice cracking. I did it all for all of you. I tried to hold this family together. Mary didn't blink. And now look around. There's nothing left to hold on to. In that instant, Cody Brown finally cracked, not with rage, but with the sheer agony of no longer being believed. The judge rose. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, this case is now under criminal review. The judge's tone sliced through the courtroom. The alleged financial fraud will be forwarded to federal court. You are not allowed to transfer, withdraw, or sell any family assets in the meantime. Robin dissolved in tears. Cody sat dumbstruck, looking at nothing. Mary remained motionless, her expression inscrutable, her silence more oppressive than words. When the session was over, Jacob faced his mother. Does this mean it's finally over?
Mary nodded slowly. Not yet. Truth doesn't conclude when you discover it. It concludes when you learn to live with it. Outside, the steps of the courthouse were thronged with cameras. Flashes exploded like firecrackers. Mary didn't linger for interviews. Christine and Janelle stayed close behind. The three women walking through noise and madness into the dying desert light. They stood together for the first time, not as competitors but as survivors. Sometimes justice isn't noisy. Sometimes it's the silent walk of women who've outgrown waiting to be believed. The camera swept up, capturing the American flag fluttering in the Arizona sun. The narrator's voice fell, firm and somber. The truth about Aurora Holdings had finally emerged. But as investigators dug through years of documents, one name kept surfacing, a signature buried deep within the trust papers. It wasn't Cody's. It wasn't Robin's. It was someone nobody foresaw. The courthouse expanded still further, the sort of quiet that is hallowed and not hollow. Everyone felt something was about to arrive. Nevada investigators came back, each holding one blue folder, the one that would determine everything. Mary sat upright, hands clasped tightly. Behind her, Jacob and Maya sat together, tight-lipped, tense. Christine and Janelle stood side by side, two women who once gulped down their truths, now unwilling to blink. Robin appeared wan, her eyes puffy, grasping in her hand a crumpled tissue. Cody sat empty-eyed, gazing unseeing before him, a man tormented by his own actions. The bailiff opened the door. Court is back in session. The judge pushed up his glasses. Miss Hart, I see you've procured further financial documents. Eleanor nodded. Yes, Your Honor. The forensic audit found a second signature hidden in the Aurora Holdings documents. Not Cody's, not Robin's, but a third name connected with the last wire transfer. Cody stiffened. What are you saying? Eleanor clicked her remote. A page materialized on the large screen. Under the harsh courtroom lights, a name pulsed on the signature line, Mary C. Brown. Gasps rocked the courtroom. Mary stood stock still. That's impossible. Eleanor's voice was steady but sharp. Initially we suspected a forgery, but forensic analysis verified the ink pressure, pen style, and timestamp correlate with your authenticated ID from the 2019 property session. Cody's eyes went wide. You were involved in this? Mary's head shook wildly. No, I never signed that. Sometimes truth doesn't arrive as an enemy. It arrives as a mirror, reflecting you something you by no means intended to show. The judge furrowed her brow. Miss Hart, is this identity fraud? That's what we thought, Eleanor answered. But the computer records indicate the signature was signed from Robin Brown's IP address, with Mary's scanned ID. Robin's head jerked up. That's not true. Eleanor continued. Robin signed the trust documents electronically using Mary's scan of her old driver's license from a 2018 insurance renewal. That's how the Brown Trust accounts were accessed by Aurora Holdings. Mary's voice cracked. You used me? By the third week of the trial, Flagstaff seemed smaller, like the entire town was waiting with its breath caught. News teams occupied the courthouse stairs. Talk shows rebroadcast footage of Mary's shaking voice, Robin's breakdown, and Cody's haunted expression. Within, the air seemed heavy. Even the guards seemed to dodge eye contact. Everyone knew today, the day the second DNA sample would be disclosed. Mary sat silently, hands clasped, looking forward. She hadn't spoken with Cody since the previous session. Seated behind her was Jacob, no longer in secret. The similarity between them could not be denied. The media referred to him as the mirror that shattered the Brown myth. Robin came in late, sunglasses over her puffy eyes. She didn't glance at anyone, not even Cody. He was gaunt, his face unshaven, a decade or two older than he'd been just weeks before. Some revelations don't shatter you all at once. They consume you from the inside out until only guilt remains. The judge cleared his throat. We're reconvening to consider the secondary forensic report that the plaintiff, Miss Eleanor Rose, requested. Your Honor, Eleanor started. This morning we received the state lab's official DNA audit, verifying both embryo records and biological matches. And we received a digital file. She glanced at Mary. Mary nodded minutely. Play it. The lights went down. The screen came on grainy video from Desert Valley Fertility Clinic. March 3, 2003. A nurse walked down the hall. Then, unmistakably came Robin. Young, hair in a ponytail, clutching a clipboard. She entered an off-limits lab room. 10 seconds later, a man did too. Eleanor spoke in a calm voice. This video, recovered from a backup drive, captures Robin entering the cryo storage area the night before Mary's prearranged transfer. Robin's attorney sprang to her feet. Objection. We have no idea what she was doing there. Overruled, replied the judge. Go on. The tape continued to roll. Robin signed on a paper. The word on the sheet was legible. Exchange. Mary's face paled. Jacob stared between them, realization hitting him. You swapped me. Robin's hands flew to her mouth. I didn't mean for it to be that way. Cody assured me it was temporary. The difference between confession and collapse is thin, and Robin had just reached it. Mrs. Brown, the judge replied. His voice strained. Are you confessing to forging medical records? I was led to believe it was only a clinic adjustment. Robin wept. I thought I was doing a good thing. Cody pounded his fists on the table. Don't say another word. But it was already too late. Your Honor, Eleanor said calmly. We request her admission be entered into record. The lab also found traces of Mary's embryo vial in Robin's batch, proof of genetic tampering. The courtroom erupted. Christine whispered to Janelle. She really did it. She took Mary's child. Mary's tears finally dropped. Not soft, but hot. You allowed me to grieve a falsehood for 20 years, she spat, gritting her teeth. You stood before me and said I would never have children. You constructed your life upon that falsehood. Robin's voice broke. I loved him as my own. He was my own. Mary retorted, shaking. He was mine first. The judge leaned forward. With this evidence in hand, I'm calling for a complete investigation into fake birth and custody petitions. Mrs. Robin Brown, you will hand over your passport now. The room erupted in flashes of cameras. Cody attempted to object, but the guards intercepted him. When power begins to drift out of reach, even the most booming voice becomes panic. You're ruining everything we accomplished. Cody spat. Mary looked at him. You did. I'm simply showing everyone the remains. Eleanor walked back to the bench once more. One last exhibit. Your Honor. A new DNA test, comparing Cody Brown to the Brown children, showed discrepancies, especially in regards to Aurora Brown. Robin bristled. Don't you dare. The tone of Eleanor was frigid now. The test showed a partial maternal mismatch, which means Aurora's listed mother must not be biologically accurate. Gasp rushed through the room. Cody appeared bewildered. That's not possible. Robin had her. Eleanor's head moved from side to side. The evidence indicates embryo substitution occurred on more than one occasion. Someone was orchestrating births in order to safeguard inheritance lines through the trust. Money, not blood relation, determined who got to live with whom under what name. Robin was weeping once more. Stop. Please. Just stop. Mary's voice was soft now, even but burdened with reality. You used my pain as your foundation, she said. Every check, every document, every family trust. It was all built on a stolen womb. Sometimes the loudest truth isn't shouted. It's whispered, through hearts that have already been broken too many times to stay silent. The judge's voice quivered slightly. We'll reconvene after lunch. Court is in recess. Reporters poured in like a tide. Brown wives huddled silently at the back, too shocked to speak. Mary said nothing. She simply observed while Robin was led away into another room for interrogation. Jacob spoke softly. Are you all right? Mary breathed in slowly, shuddering. No, she whispered. But I will be. Outside, thunder rumbled over the Arizona desert. Cameras captured her walking into the storm, tears blurring with raindrops. Her hair whipped in the wind as she said, near whispering to herself, he was mine all along. Justice doesn't always thunder with victory. Sometimes it walks quietly with the broken, carrying their truth. Inside, Cody walked the deserted hallway, cursing himself. They can't establish intent. They can't establish it was a fraud. But even he no longer believed it. His voice gave him away. He knew it was over. That evening, headlines again changed. State calls for complete forensic audit of Brown family trust. Robin under suspension. And in some evidence room locked away. The DNA vials that had begun it all waited to tell one last story. The one that would determine who walks free. And who finally pays. The truth was out. The punishment hadn't yet begun. The rain continued throughout the night. Puddles by dawn reflected courthouse lights like broken glass. The entire world held its breath. News correspondents. Tabloids, Cody Brown's fans. Everyone holding their breath to see what would be revealed when Cody Brown testified on the stand. The air inside was heavier than ever before. 20 years worth of secrets weighing down all the people inside that room. Cameras hummed softly in the background. Pens scratched out notepads. Even the judge seemed uncomfortable. Mary sat demurely, her hands folded on the table. Jacob stood behind her, head down, prayerfully hoping this would be the day his life was not picked apart for public amusement. Cody came into the room in a black suit, too formal, too bright, as if he still believed image could repair truth. Robin followed behind him, her makeup smudged, her eyes empty. She did not speak. To him, to anyone. Mr. Cody Brown, please come forward, the bailiff said. He shuffled slowly, fidgeting with his tie with a shaking hand. There was no longer any confidence. Merely survival. Eleanor rose. Mr. Brown, you've been charged with knowingly forging medical records, siphoning inheritance money, and hiding the real parentage of a child. Do you have a statement to make prior to continuing? Cody let out a harsh breath. I didn't lie. I was informed the clinic had a clerical mistake. I didn't want to hurt anyone. Mary did not avert her gaze. So why did you lie for 20 years? He winced. Because I didn't know how to tell you. When fear and guilt meet, silence begins to resemble mercy. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Brown, did you have knowledge of any DNA or embryo mix-ups prior to this litigation? Cody hesitated. Not really. I suspected something was wrong when Robin became pregnant sooner than anticipated. And you didn't ask questions? Eleanor asked brusquely. I trusted her, he snapped. She told me everything was okay. That it was God's will. That Mary's embryo had issues. Mary's voice was shaking, but it was firm. God didn't create that plan. Cody, Robin did. And you allowed her. The courtroom fell silent. Eleanor approached a step or two with a folder. Your Honor, this form demonstrates Cody Brown's signature on an insurance authorization the same day the embryo transfer occurred. The same day Robin entered the lab. Cody's attorney attempted to protest.
But Eleanor cut through with her voice. And the signature is identical, including the pressure points. Cody understood. The judge took a look at the form. His brow wrinkled. Mr. Brown, did you sign for this document? Cody's voice trembled. I don't know. Maybe I did. Eleanor's voice was a hair's breadth softer than necessary, to cause added pain. You did. Robin buried her face in her hands. The truth doesn't destroy people. It unmasks them when there is nowhere to run. Mary's breath came in short gasps. All the deception, the trickery, the guilt, it burst forth to the surface. Let me blame myself, she breathed. You saw me grieve for a child you knew was alive. Cody's complexion flushed, veins bulging on his temples. I didn't want to lose it all, he bellowed. You already did, Mary declared, her voice echoing off the walls. Gasps echoed through the gallery. Journalists wrote frantically. The judge ordered them to be quiet. But something had shifted. The trial was no longer a trial. It was a reckoning. Cody hunched over in the witness chair, his eyes fixed on the ground. I believed if I buried it, that it would go away, he whispered. Mary shut her eyes. Secrets don't die, Cody. They wait. When the liar eventually speaks the truth, it's not redemption. It's the crashing sound of every bridge burning behind them. Eleanor faced the judge. Your Honor, in light of this admission, we respectfully ask the court to place a freeze on all Brown Trust assets for forensic accounting. We also respectfully ask for restitution to Mrs. Mary Brown's inheritance funds. The judge nodded gravely. Motion granted. Gasps circulated once more. Robin stared at Cody, shaking. You said they'd never know. He didn't answer. She began to weep. The hard, splintering kind that occurs when you come to understand the house you constructed was already ablaze before you ever caught the scent of smoke. You said it was taken care of, she cried. You assured me no one would ever lay eyes on those documents. Eleanor swung about, unruffled. Mrs. Brown, these documents were filed by your lawyer. You both lied. Robin glanced over at Mary, a desperate look in her eyes. I didn't want to hurt you. I wanted to have a family. Mary was icy, detached. You don't create a family by stealing a child. You create one by speaking the truth. Something neither of you ever knew. Robin's tears rang out in the courtroom. Cody made no motion to reach out to her. The empire they'd forged, each lie, each secret, was reduced to ashes now. The judge rubbed his temples wearily. In light of these disclosures, the court will adjourn until tomorrow to enable both sides to consider outstanding criminal referrals. That single word, criminal, struck harder than anything else that day. Outside, the crowd had doubled. Mary walked out first, shoulders square, wind tugging at her hair, as she ignored the shouting reporters. Jacob followed quietly, holding her bag. You think they'll go to jail? He asked. She didn't answer right away. Then, softly, I think they'll finally know what it feels like to lose something they can't replace. Cody and Robin walked out separately. Cameras popped. Microphones invaded their faces. But they didn't say a word. Robin's tears glistened on her face. Cody's back was turned to her entirely. Sometimes punishment doesn't arrive in handcuffs. It arrives in the faces of individuals who no longer believe your lies. As the sun dipped behind the courthouse steps, Christine and Janelle found Mary, standing with them in silent solidarity. They didn't need to say a word. They didn't need to say a word. They didn't need to say a word. They didn't need to say one. Their union, which had been broken by love and lies, had reformed anew in the embers of truth. But Eleanor was not finished. She stepped close to Mary and whispered, We just received new documents from the clinic records. There is a fourth file. A missing donor record linked to Cody's name. If I'm correct, this isn't finished. Mary spun around. What do you mean? Eleanor paused. It means there could be another child. And this time, the DNA does not link to Robin. Mary stiffened. The crowd outside her window disappeared. All she heard was the pounding of her own heart. The truth had finally come out. But maybe the surface was merely the start. The screen goes black as the voice of the narrator becomes more subdued. New evidence tomorrow will show something nobody anticipated. And for the first time, Cody won't be alone on trial. By the morning of the next day, the courthouse wasn't simply filled. It hummed with excitement. Everyone was aware of something huge being about to happen. During the night, the news had spilled out a fourth file had been discovered. No one had any idea what it contained. But rumors swirled through every nook of that building. All heads turned as the double doors opened at the rear of the courtroom. The room fell silent. A young woman entered. Tall, poised, but shaking a little. Her dark curls were wet with the rain outside. She had no makeup. No jewelry. Just a simple gray coat. Her eyes, however, sharp, amber, and known to him, locked right onto Cody. Maya Jensen, said the bailiff. To testify. For a second Cody did not breathe. It was seeing a reflection of 20 years past. The same facial bones. The same flash of pride over fear. Christine's mouth opened, whispering almost, "My God, she looks just like him." Mary gazed. The space between them became heavy with emotion until even the reporters halted their pens. Maya moved forward. Her tone firm but soft. "I shouldn't have been here. At least, not this way." The judge moved forward. "Miss Jensen." "Brown," she broke in quietly. "I changed my name when I learned who I was. When I discovered the donor code in the files." Eleanor moved up to her softly. "Maya, can you explain to the court how you obtained that information?" Maya nodded, her fingers clenching the witness stand. "I applied for an internship in medicine at Desert Valley Clinic 1 year ago. I was going through older files and came across one sealed under my birth date. It had the donor signature. And my DNA code." "Your signature?" She spun, the eyes snapping at Cody. "You signed it. You knew." Cody shook his head, his voice breaking. "No, that's not. I didn't approve." But Eleanor pushed another sheet across the table. "This is your signature once more, Mr. Brown. From 2003. You signed off on the transfer marked alternate recipient. Emergency relocation." Robin whispered scathingly. "What on earth does that say?" Mary replied. "Icy as granite. It means they transferred one of the embryos somewhere. And never informed anyone." The judge massaged his temples. "Miss Brown. Maya, do you know who brought you up?" Maya gulped. "I was adopted by a nurse from the same clinic. She passed away 2 years ago. But before she died, she said that I was conceived under strange circumstances. That someone paid extra to hide my file." The room exploded in soft murmurs. Eleanor went on softly. "We followed the payment. It was from a shared account. Robin and Cody Brown." Robin let out a gasp. "That's not so. I never." Mary's voice cut through her lie. "You didn't need to. He did it for you." Cody slammed his hand onto the table. "Enough. I was attempting to protect my family." The judge's gavel cracked once. Forcefully. "Mr. Brown. Calm down." Maya's eyes glinted. But she did not avert her gaze. "Guard them from what? From me? From the truth?" Silence. Eleanor retreated a pace. Her tone soft now. "Your Honor, Miss Brown's DNA type matches Mr. Brown. And an unregistered ovum donor who carries genetic markers identical to Christine Brown. According to probability, it seems the embryo was conceived from her material. Against her will." Christine gasped openly. "That's my child." She broke. "You stole my embryo." And she couldn't get the words out. Robin covered her mouth. Shuddering. Cody merely sat there. All defenses breaking. Mary's whisper shattered the silence. "He didn't steal from me. He stole from all of us." The judge leaned back slowly, taking a deep breath. "This court will recess until further notice. We are moving from civil to criminal proceedings. Fraud, unlawful use of genetic material, and conspiracy will all be referred to the state attorney's office immediately." Eleanor nodded. "Understood, Your Honor." Reporters sprang for the doors. Cameras flashed like lightning. Maya stood, shaking but intact. She looked again at Cody. "You attempted to erase me. But I am. And that's your legacy." He parted his lips to talk. But nothing emerged. Mary extended her hand, touching the hand of Christine. We believed that truth was behind us. She whispered, but it was expanding this entire time. Christine dried her tears. And now it's here in front of us. Outside, thunder rolled once more. The courthouse doors shut behind them. As the storm burst, a purifying rain over the devastation of all Cody Brown believed he held sway over. Would you have me continue this as Session 8? The daughter's testimony, wherein Maya takes the witness stand and recounts her tale in every particular.